When we talk about sort of looking at the spring season with our players and understanding of for us to continue to improve as a team, we need every season for every individual to continue to improve. So if a player does a great job of getting better in the fall season, and then they just don't do the work and they're in sprint season and they've dropped down a few levels and then we raise them over the course of the spring season to the same level like finishes the fall, we're just treading water and we're not going to be the best team we can be. So we talk with all the players all the time about you need to be a better player the first day of spring season than you were the last day of fall. We do a fitness test the first day of spring, just like we do the first day of preseason in the fall. And we treat it very seriously with a little bit of a different focus. So because we can only have one date of competition in our spring season, the focus isn't on results. It's extremely focused on development. And there's two ways that we do that. One is for every player, they have foci that they need to be working on. And it's a shared Google Doc that everybody sees. So if your teammate has a couple things that he's working on, our teammates are told that they need to be responsible for helping each other as well improve in those ways. But during the spring season, we grade every player every day. So they come over to us after a practice, they tell us on a ranking from 1 to 10 what they would give themselves for that practice and why, and then we tell them what we had given them and why. And we track that as well. So we get a lot of individual attention every single day and keeping people focused on what their abilities are. Where that comes in the extremely helpful to us is it standardizes our measurement level. And you think of college players as they come into college, they've had 6, 8, 10 coaches who have told them that they need to do X, Y, or Z in regards to what makes them a good player. And we only have 3 years to get them on the same page with what we think makes a good player and what our program needs. So I've had players who will come in and say, I think I was an 8 today. And we'd talk about it. And then I'll be like, well, I really thought you were a 3. And if we're that far apart, something's wrong. We're not talking the same language. And vice versa. If he's giving himself a 3 and I'm saying he's an 8, we got to look at that too. So it really helps us as through the spring, we see those numbers come very much together. And it's not that they know what number we're going to give them because we always ask them to grade themselves first, but they start to hone in on the most important things for them to do as a player. And that's very helpful for us to make sure we're getting the historic noise out of their head and they can focus on the task at hand for the college team. Then overarchingly, we look at 1 or 2 tactical topics that we're going to focus on as a team. And it's usually 1 or 2 overall that we can put into place for the fall. So like this spring, for instance, we're graduating our 2 center backs and our starting keeper. So I look at that sort of defensive triangle right there, and those are 3 very impactful players for our team. So our spring season tactically is going to be focused on the workings of our defensive back 5. Mm-hmm. And it might not just be those 3 positions, but how we move players into certain positions. It might sort of change the outside back positions as well. So we've had those 3 guys starting for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a big challenge for us to say, okay, we have different abilities in each of you. Jack Rollins for us is a player who had great speed and who would cover every defender on the field.
Yeah.
So
fantastic ball player, by the way. Fantastic ball player.
He's a great person, great player, and we don't have a player who has his speed and his covering awareness. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking with the players about how it needs to be the 4 of you covering for each other and the organization being even tighter than it was because we don't have the individual exceptionalists to cover it.
Yeah.
So that's the focus for this spring is saying, okay, how are we going to make sure we're a tighter unit? Because covering is now a team task, not an individual task. And that's a awesome way that I think spring gives us the opportunity to do something that I think is critical for our success next fall.